cousins, you know who you are. I've sent you a bead kit, and now let's do the lesson. Here's your pattern. I also sent you some written instructions, but talking through it might be easier than following what I wrote out. But here's your pattern. This is what we're going for. This is actually just 2 colors. This one's 3, so let's do it with the 3. We'll do 2 rounds of color A, 3 rounds of color B, and 2 of color C. And you're going to learn how to do the starting row and a regular row. So let's go. Pick out your colors. I'm going to do the teal first, that red, and then this white. If you want, you could go through and color in your pattern to follow it. I generally don't follow a pattern, but I'll show you that another time. Okay, so we're going to start with 16, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay, so this is going to be my color A, and you can't even see those in the shot. Just string them all on. And by the way, this is what I'm calling the top, the part that's open. It's what I'm calling the top. Some people might see that as the bottom. Okay. Whoops. Okay, I've got my 16 on. Have your 16 on yet? You can wait. Pause it if you need to. This thread is going up and to the left, going clockwise. If you watch one of the other videos, you can see how going a different direction puts your beads in a different direction, but this is the way we're going. So I'm going to put a little mark on this first one. I don't know if you can see that. This is our Trickster bead. Now this is important for every round to remember the first bead that you put on the round, because if you don't pay attention to it to finish the round, your starting row will be screwed up and just won't work. So I'm going through all the beads once. You might find it easier to set your object down, go through it like that. My preference is to just hold it like this and go through. And here we are. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but here's our Trickster bead right here. So I'm going to go through that bead one more time. And I'll explain why we have to do that later. So I've scooched all the beads around. They're all out of the way. And now we're going to do our first round to do the starting row. And I'm doing that in a different color so you can see how the 3 drop forms. 2, 4, 6, 8. So now we want 8. In another video, I'll explain the count and the numbers. But right now, don't worry about it. Just worry about following these directions. Okay, so I picked up a bead. I'm going to skip this bead. Just going to push it over to where my thread is coming out. Your thread's going to go underneath the bead you skipped through the next bead. Now, you want your thread to always be like the tension to kind of go in the direction that it's pulling. If I were to go like this, look what happens. Everything gets jumbled up. So that's gotten out. We want that to go underneath and to the left of the bead we skipped. So to avoid this, you need to pivot and just give it a little pull. So it's not looking like anything right now, but on this next one you're going to see. So pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through a bead, And now, see, I'm pivoting, pulling. Now you can see this is what we want every stitch to look like. 1, 2, 3. Teal, teal, red. I guess that's teal. I don't really know what color that is. So, see, I'm just kind of pulling this way, scooching, getting them all in alignment. And we just keep doing that all the way around. We've done 2, we've got 6 more. Skip a bead, go through a bead. Make sure the thread's going underneath the bead you skipped through the next bead. And then just kind of pivot and pull. So I'm going to scooch those beads around out of the way and make room for all of these next 5 beads we're going to put on. So you pick up a bead, skip the bead, go through a bead, and then pivot and pull. How's it looking? Looking pretty good. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through a bead. Are you getting it? And pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through a bead. It's getting a little tight, so you can just kind of scooch everything around, make a little room. Pick up a bead, and scooch those over. Skip a bead, your thread's going underneath the bead you skipped through the next bead. Now this is a little tough because it's getting squished in there. All right, we're on our last one. So remember when I said the first bead of the round is our trickster bead? This is it right here. That's the first bead that we put on. So we're skipping our bead, going through that bead. Ooh, did I just tell you the wrong thing? I just told you the wrong thing. That's why it's the trickster bead. That was our first starting row round. This is the trickster bead now. This was the first bead of the round that we put on. See how it's tricky? So we put our 8 to create the round. Now we want to go through that trickster bead, just like that, to finish the round. You have to do that every time. You can make a lot of mistakes in this and fix them, but there's no fixing if you don't finish the round by going through that trickster bead. Okay, so this is the starting row. You've done it. So let's just check our work to make sure everything looks all right. You want your 2 color, 1 color, your 2, 1, 2, 1, just like you want it to look the same all the way around, and it does. And check, you've gone through your trickster bead. Now we're ready to do the second round. So every time we go around, we're just going to count out 8 beads. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8. That's our 8. Okay, so now let's just do a regular round. So the whole thing with skipping a bead is over. You're going to pick up a bead, go through the next lowest bead. Now you might see it is that you're skipping 2 beads. So here's your thread coming out. There's 1, 2 beads that you're skipping, and you're going through the next lowest bead. Whatever makes sense to you, just make sure you do the same thing all the way around. So picking up a bead, going through that next lowest bead. Pick up a bead, go through the next lowest bead. Let's see. See, this one looks a little crooked to me, so I'm just gonna kind of try to straighten it out. Oh, my thread's kinked under there. Well, that's all right. Maybe with this next one it'll... Okay, wait. There we go. Okay. So remember that kind of pivot and pull. You don't want to pull your thread this way. You want to make sure the thread is always going in the same direction that you started. So not like this, like that. Pick pick up a bead, go through the next lowest. Oh shoot, I just dropped that one. Let's get one more. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're at the end of our round. Look at what that thread wants to do. Look, it's going through two at once, ending our round, but also going through the Trickster bead. This was the first bead we put on the round. So let's look at that. Why is that? So here's our whole second round. You can kind of scooch those in, make them line up. You just want to make sure everything's kind of lined up the same all the way around. You've got 2 and 2, 2 and 2, 2 and 2. It checks out all the way around. So let's talk about that Trickster bead. I'm going to take this out and show you. Okay, so here's just part of the regular round. Look at how the thread drapes. You're skipping your 2 beads and then the thread's going to go into that one. So just look at that. Okay, now if we don't go through those 2 beads at once, now look at it. Let's see. Okay, now look at your thread. So your thread, it just really is telling you, hey, I want to go through that Trickster bead. And look at the room. You're only skipping this 1 bead here. There's really not room for 2 beads. So what happens is if you don't go through the Trickster bead and you start your round there, everything gets crooked, and as you go along it just gets worse and there's no fixing it. You just have to rip out your stitches, and it happens to everybody. It'll happen to you. So deal with it. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8. Why do I count out 8 beads every time? Let me tell you. Now we're just doing the same thing. The whole starting row thing's over. I count out 8 beads for beginners, so you know when you get to the end of a round and you know when you're at that Trickster round. So now we're just doing the same thing. Picking up a bead, going through the next lowest bead. Picking it up. You might be getting faster at it now. I'll try not to go too fast. Pick up, go through. Remember, you're gonna pick up, pivot and pull. Okay, ooh, we're at number 8. Look, here we go. So here goes the thread, and just look where it's going. See, it's just saying, hey, I wanna go through that Trickster bead. Why is the Trickster bead so tricky? Well, let me show you this right now. So look how everything's symmetrical all the way around. The thread's coming out, this 1, 2, 3. Well, hey, what if we just did that? Huh, now that's the Trickster bead. There's lots of tricks to outsmarting the Trickster bead. So that is further lessons. But now look, you have done a starting row, which was these first 3. And now you've done just a regular row, which is this red row. And so it goes all the way around and you've done it. So now we're just going to do 2/3 of a row. We're not going to do a full row because there's not room on here in white. So let's count out white. 2, 4, 6, 8. God, I hope I made my thread long enough. I'll be so sad if I didn't. I gave you all really long threads. Just keep doing the same thing. Pick up a white, go through a next lowest red, and here we go. I was estimating this might take 20 minutes. We're at 14. So I hope it's getting faster for you. Oops, see how that happened? Oh, there we go, I cleared it. Okay, sometimes your thread can get kinked up, and I'm stretching out my thread a little bit to make it longer. Okay, there we go. I don't think you'll have to do that with yours because I did send you really long thread. All right, so now you can kind of see how that red row is formed. And all right, here we are. We're at our Trickster bead. Now this one's really easy to see because it's the red one, but just look for your thread drape if you didn't count out your 8 beads. Look for where your thread's going. See, it's just going, hey, put me through the Trickster bead. So 1 and then 2. So you might see that at the end, finishing the round, going through 2 beads at once. There's just a lot of different ways to look at it. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8. Gosh, I hope I'm not getting out of my camera shot here. Let me move this up a little bit. Okay. I kind of forgot to explain how I'm working through the pattern, but I hope that makes sense. So this is going to be our last round. We did 8 rounds. It takes 3 times a round to make a row. So we really did just 2 1/3 rows, if that makes sense. You'll have to know math to do this stitch. So we are so close. Picking up a white, going through a white, or whatever color. God, maybe I should have sent you all the same colors. Everybody picked different colors. Except for Jake, I just sent him Sounders colors. Okay. Oh my God, we're so close. Look, it's our last bead. Picking up the bead, go through and see, look, there's your Trickster bead. It just wants to go through. Okay, and my thread was long enough. Hooray. All right, we did it. We did 8 rounds to make 2 1/3 rows, 2 2/3 rows. Like there's 1 row, 2, yeah, 2 1/3 rows. Yeah, that's right. Okay, math. Okay, so now what do we do with this? I don't knot it so much because it's plasticky. If it were real thread, I would do knots, but right now I'm just gonna run it through a little bit and kind of tighten it up. So the thread will tell you where it wants to go. That one just went right through there. Here, see, it's saying like, yeah, I'll just go back down to that red. So just run it through where you're trying to kind of hide your thread a little bit. If you have really good tight beadwork, the thread won't show very much, but see this one, it doesn't want to go that way. So maybe this might be hard to go here because we already have several bits of thread in there. It's not going. So maybe try this way again. There's really no right way. Ooh, you know what? I'm going to try to snip it to make it pointy. Maybe that'll help. Boink. So. Okay. Ooh, that worked, sort of. Aha, there we go. Okay. Okay, now that we're done, maybe that would have been easier to have pointy thread. So you can do it till you just use up all the thread. So here's one example. See, I wouldn't want it to go there because see, it's gonna thread. I'm just gonna, once you learn, you'll see like how the directions of the thread goes. I think that's pretty good. I mean, it seems pretty good. So you can have scissors, or you know, one thing I really like is fingernail clippers, because you can get flush in there with it and dunk, just cut it. And where do we have, did I have a lid somewhere? I totally forgot to walk you through the directions, but that's why it's just better to have somebody explain it to you. So there it is. You did it. You beaded your first item. And it took about 20 minutes. So you'll probably have to watch this again. If you were like me, you had to watch the video over and over again. But that's it. I hope it makes sense. I hope you're able to do it. Get in touch with me if you have questions, and I can't wait to see how your project turned out. Bye.